Hello everyone, I hope everyone's having a good day and that you enjoy our presentation. Today our group will be discussing the different roles throughout different texts and literature that women have. I will be discussing the themes in Antigone, which I was not pronouncing right until recently. And Jennyfer will be discussing Gilgamesh, and Layla will be talking about Sappho. Many of you are probably wondering, why are we discussing this at all? And I think it's important to know history and know the roles that women have, because it keeps a checks and balance system of a system of inequality sometimes. It's no shocker that women weren't always treated with kindness growing up or throughout history. And it's important to know history so that we don't repeat it. I think that's how that one famous saying goes. Those who do not know history are condemned to repeat it. And I think it's important to stay up on topic on that. And it's also just very interesting. So that being said, I will jump into it. Let's see. Okay. Antigone by Sophocles. Antigone is a moral guidepost throughout the whole play. She's a constant, and she represents a more masculine role because of her defiance against the king. She wants to bury her brother, but according to the law that Creon made, she can't bury her brother. And her role throughout the play is like a guidepost and sticking to what she believes in, and a very rebellious character. Her sister, on the other hand, she is the other woman in the play, represents more of a traditional female in ancient Greek society, where she conforms while Antigone resists, is the word I'm looking for. She's I believe her name is pronounced Ismene, is the sister's name. She's very obedient, cautious, and she listens to male authority, while Antigone is just very rebellious and she does what she believes is right. She stands for what the opposite of Ismene stands for. For example, Antigone says, "I will bury him myself. And even if I die in the act, the death will be a glory. I will lie with the one I love and loved by him, an outrage sacred to the gods. I have no longer to please the dead than please the living here. In the kingdom down below, I'll lie forever. Do as you like, dishonor the laws, and the gods hold in honor." That's lines 85 through 90. Antigone has that power because it comes from within herself. She can't make laws or doesn't have like governmental power, but her own power stems from her unwillingness to conform and to relent on the topic. And by her doing this, she exposes the corruptness of Creon's role and how he's a tyrant. So she does have power, but it's not your traditional power that you think of throughout the play, because she's so rebellious and so true to herself, which I admire. Let's see. Okay, so opposite of Antigone, her sister stays silent and obedient, while okay, I got back on track. Okay, so while Ismene stays within the bounds, or the boundaries, I guess, that men have set for ancient Greek society, she stays in those boundaries that men set for them. She stays silent and obedient, and Antigone does not. She just keeps on going. Ismene even says, Remember, we are women and we are not born to contend with men. And I think that's really sad. But they're both sisters are opposite. And you would think that Ismini even wants to fight for what is right with her sister, but instead she shows the opposite. She's very hands off the whole situation while Antigone's out there and not letting anyone tell her different. Okay, so this leads me to the next part. Are women present and how are they represented in the play? Women are both present, but also silenced. Antigone is celebrated later on as a symbol for courage, but she also was punished for stepping out of the gender role they seem fit for women during that time. Ismene, on the other hand, is silenced by her fear and the expectations that society has on women, so she doesn't do anything. She just stays the same. There's no growth. Antigone ultimately challenges the expectations of women in ancient Greece, but isn't appreciated until after her death. Both portrayals of women throughout the play reveal a lot about Greek society as a whole. It shows that Greek culture is very patriarchal. They expect women to stay in their place. The idea or phrase that comes to mind is when parents try to keep their kids under control or from getting too rowdy, and they say like, oh, you're to be seen and not heard. I think that's the same for how they felt about women in ancient Greece. Yeah, but Antigone cannot be silenced and she will be heard because her morals are being questioned and she's going to do what's right. Yeah, so that being said, Sophocles, I think, wrote Antigone this way to question the standard of women that they put on women in that time period. I think that he possibly wanted to bring down this pillar or the structure of, oh, women should be in this little bubble that we created for them, and wrote Antigone as this rebellious character to show that there's nothing bad can come from having someone be heard and their voice be heard and to stand up for injustice. Yeah, I think that that's my guess as to why he wrote things the way he did. The main conflict between Antigone and Creon mirrors the challenge of moral duty versus political authority. And I think that shows heavily throughout the entire play. Unfortunately, her death displays the cost of what happens when you silence a woman with a strong moral conscience. I feel like I relate a lot to Antigone. I would not be able to stand for or be like Ismene and be silent. I would want to speak out. I would want people to hear what I have to say. Very strong-willed. So I connect a lot with this character, and I'm very grateful that I got to do this part of the presentation on her. Yeah. I will now pass the torch to my next classmate, where she will discuss the roles of women in her chosen text. Thank you guys so much for listening, and I hope that you enjoyed. Thank you guys.
In the Sappho poem, One Girl, Two Women are displayed. One woman is compared to a sweet apple, and the other a hyacinth flower. These are both symbols for beauty and purity in nature. While the poem describes some differences between the two in a negative way, the beauty of women is what is shown in a positive light. In Greek mythology, apples are symbols of love, beauty, and immortality. Flowers are a symbol for love and joy. In the poem, the apple is set to sit on the topmost part of the tree, and it is held to a very high standard while the flower resides on the ground and may have lost some innocence. So both the apple and the flower are still seen as desirable. The sweet apple, compared to the hyacinth flower, shows the comparison between something that is high up and hard to reach versus something that is low to the ground and easy to access. This symbol represents women in society. The poem describes the wildflower as damaged and used, something that has been hurt many times. The only difference between the apple and the hyacinth are the locations. The poem describes that the two share the same beauty, just as beautiful as each other, but one is protected and the other is not. The poem shows how women are so desired in society by illustrating the beauty of two very different objects that they share. The poem also shows how surface level men can be when determining status. To some, a woman who comes from a high status with potentially a lot of money and good looks is more desirable than somebody coming from a lower class lifestyle. Because the hyacinth stays on the ground, its beauty is overlooked and more easily used by others. Women can be ignored if they don't fit into a societal box. The poem is trying to challenge this negative idea of women, showing that a woman's beauty is unattainable for men. This shows how often society chases an unrealistic beauty standard because of their desire for social climbing or climbing up the tree. While the wildflower is said to be ignored by the passing feet of the shepherds, the idea that the flower resides lower than their viewpoint, the poem challenges this difference and shows how the apple and the flower are the same. On the other hand, the poem also holds a message of marriage, showing how marriage can deeply change a woman, especially with the loss of freedom. Both began as beautiful and innocent, but after marriage, they become worn out. The poem highlights respect for women by showing marriage in a negative way, showing that women do not need to rely on marriage to be successful or desirable. It is inferred that women still carry this beauty despite their past. The Sappho poem represents women positively because it challenges the idea that is set by society.
Hello, my name is Jennyfer Cabrera, and I'm here to talk about the women who were portrayed in the Epic of Gilgamesh. They showed that just because they didn't have the same power as men, they were far from powerless. The first woman showed was Ninsun, the mother of Gilgamesh. She was shown as the wise advisor and protector. In the story, Gilgamesh, her son, came to her three times with 3 different dreams. After describing the 3 dreams, Ninsun was able to interpret them as him meeting Enkidu, someone in equal strength and someone he will come to see as a brother. Later, when he sets out for a journey, he comes to her again. He didn't use his title against her. He asked if she would pray for him for a safe journey. On page 7, it was written, "Ninsun, will you listen to me? I have a long journey to go, to the land of Hambaba. I must travel to an unknown road and fight a strange battle. From the day I go until I return, till I reach the cedar forest and destroy the evil which Shamash abhors. Pray for me to Shamash." Here he was shown as a son asking his mother for help. The second woman portrayed in the epic was Shamhat. She was first brought up as a prostitute to sleep with Enkidu, so he would be rejected by the forest. Some might say that she was portrayed negatively for being a prostitute, but I disagree. She had the skill and body, so she used it to her advantage. On page 3 it said, "She was not ashamed to take him. She made herself naked and welcomed his eagerness. As he lay on her murmuring love, she taught him the woman's art." After she had done her job, Enkidu was rejected by the animals and was more of a man. She could have left him on his own, but she didn't. She chose to help him instead. Shamat told him, "You are wise, Enkidu, and now you have become like a god. Why do you want to run wild with the beasts in the hills? Come with me, I will take you to the strong-willed Uruk, to the blessed temple of Ishtar and of Anu, of love and of heaven. There Gilgamesh lives, who is very strong, and like a wild bull he lords it over men." Throughout this she stayed by his side. She helped civilize him so he could stay with the people. She taught him from right and wrong, in a way that he could see later what Gilgamesh was doing to his own people was unfair. This caused the chain reaction of stopping Gilgamesh, which led him to be seen as his equal. None of this would have occurred without her help. 2 women from different backgrounds show that just because they may not have had the same power as men, they were far from powerless. And this concludes the project from Grace Funkhouser, Layla Evers, and Jennyfer Cabrera.